And already millions of people across the world are venting their ire at America's choice. Donald Trump was inaugurated in Washington yesterday amid some protests. Today, tens of thousands took to the streets in Washington to express their outrage at his derogatory remarks about women. For more on the worldwide protest action, we now cross to our correspondent in Washington, Sherwin Bryce-Pease. Sherwin, thank you very much for joining us. Now, we're just about an hour away from these marches that are taking place in Washington. Take us through the mood there. You've been there for most of the day.
Well, I can tell you that hundreds of thousands of people have turned out here in downtown Washington. They plan to march on the White House later today. The rally that is getting things underway here this morning is underway. It started at 10 a.m. Eastern. That's around 5 p.m. South African time. They will rally for 2 hours. A number of speakers currently speaking right now is a women's rights activist, Gloria Steinem, who had a message for this crowd that said, essentially, you can't just sit behind your computer and click send. Sometimes you have to put your body on the line, and hundreds of thousands of people literally have come out to put their bodies on the line here in opposition to the inauguration of the 45th President of the United States, and in opposition certainly against the philosophy of this president, whether he's the things he has said about women's rights, the things he has said about how he grabs women, LGBT rights concerns, issues around immigration, issues around climate change. Donald Trump famously calling climate change a hoax. So there are a number of issues that are on the agenda here, and hundreds of thousands of people are coming out in force tabile to show their opposition to the newly inaugurated president.
Now, Sherwin, when we spoke to you yesterday, immediately after the inauguration, the protests were becoming a little more chaotic. There was some violence in some instances and arrests as well. Can we expect the same to happen today, or is it seemingly peaceful?
Well, what you had yesterday, there were elements of peaceful protests and there were elements of anarchy. There were literally people that were breaking windows, attacking, sort of running rampage against the police lines that were set up, breaking the windows of vehicles and SUVs. Those were self-defined anarchists who are separate from the legitimate protests we are seeing on the streets today. You speak to people and they will tell you that anarchists show up whether it was Hillary Clinton taking the oath of office or whether it was Donald Trump. What you essentially have here, the broad-based coalition we are seeing on the streets of Washington today, is generally peaceful. We have had no complaints, no issues here today. And that's what we're seeing on the streets today. People are issue-driven. This is about women's rights being human rights. This is about LGBT concerns that might be rolled up under the Republican majorities in the Senate and the House and the White House. This is also about concerns around who Donald Trump will appoint to the Supreme Court. I mean, very, very concerned citizens on the streets here that are concerned that the conservative tranche will now again dominate the Supreme Court. So there are a number of issues here that are driving people onto the streets, but boldly claiming here that Donald Trump is an illegitimate president and that he's not a president in their name.
Sherwin, let's shift focus away from the march maybe a little bit and look at America as a whole. It's been a day since the inauguration. Are they settling into their new president?
Well, this is a sign that a majority of people perhaps are not. There are literally hundreds of thousands of people. We were very close to the stage earlier on Tabile, and there was literally no place to move. And people, as you can see, this is one of the feeding routes into the main rally. People behind me are streaming into this rally before they march on the White House. And let's not forget the specifics here, the facts here. Donald Trump did not win the majority of votes in that election. Hillary Clinton won the majority of the national vote by something just over or very close to 3 million votes. So what you are seeing here, this show of force against Donald Trump, is to show the world that he does not represent all of Americans, all the divisive things that he has said on the campaign trail. I mean, the analysis of his speech yesterday was that he was providing a very dark narrative for America. These people with their pink hats on today are saying that he does not speak in my name, and we need to come out in force so that the world gets a clear idea of what America stands for.
Now, speaking of Donald Trump, what was his first official duty as president today?
Well, I didn't hear that question, but what I will tell you is that events here will wrap up at around 8 p.m. South African time at this rally, and then people will march down Independence Avenue, which is a huge swath of space in the center of Washington, D.C., and they will march on the White House. There's a strong police contingent here, but as I've mentioned earlier, this is a very peaceful gathering. These are very, very excited people to a day after the inauguration make their voices heard, and so we'll be marching with them and getting their views as the day proceeds.
Sherwin, we'll leave it there for now. We'll definitely be crossing to you as the bulletin goes on. That was our U.S. correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Pease, joining us from Washington for those anti-Trump protests.